Welcome to another episode of the Power Up podcast. If there is one thing that will stop you powering up, maximizing on your potential, living your dreams, fulfilling your goals, it has to be your belief system, your limiting belief system. The beliefs that we somehow accumulate over the course of our life, which we'll talk about how we get there, that somehow lodge themselves in our brains and then start forming what we were likely to do or not do, as the case may be. These limiting beliefs can just steal away our potential. Would you agree, Lisa?
Absolutely. It's the number one dream stealer, I suppose you'd like to call it, that we see in our work.
Tell me about that survey you did of all the people that have done the Power Up program.
Yeah, I mean, every time people enter the program, we get them to fill out a self-assessment, if you like, so that we can work out how best to help them. And time after time after time, screaming out from the paper are a whole raft of limiting beliefs that people have that are absolutely, you know, they feel that they're stopping them reaching their potential, and they don't necessarily know it's the beliefs that are doing that. But absolutely, as we explore through the program, number one thing.
It's the number one thing they cite as their biggest issue, biggest concern, biggest blockage to maximising on their potential. Got full of aspirations, ideas, goals, dreams, want to take a different step in my career, want to get a promotion, want to start my own business.
Yep.
What's the one thing that's holding them back? It's something to do with their belief system, something to do with their belief about their own personal potential, why they may not be good enough, etc. And then post-program, we have the 7 natural powers. One of those powers is called belief power, and that is always consistently voted as the number one power that they felt they had the most benefit from, that actually created the most shift. Yeah.
In this episode, we're going to explore common types of limiting beliefs and where they come from. We'll look at the psychology behind beliefs more generally. We'll explore some of the latest research in neuroscience and what that tells us about how beliefs are formed and how they can be changed to something more empowering. And we're going to give a really simple strategy, requires work, but it's a simple strategy to help people crush some of the limiting beliefs and replace them with more empowering ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very easy to talk about a theory behind it. We really want to, as always on these podcasts, is listen through to the end, because we will be discussing a very specific strategy that, when applied over a period of time, will help you dislodge and change some of those kind of sticky beliefs that have been around for a while. So if you're a person listening to this and thinking, I certainly have some beliefs that have been around for a while that actually are no longer serving me and not really helping me in my work, and I find them quite annoying, and I know intelligently I shouldn't believe in them, but somehow they still continue to haunt me and limit me.
Yeah.
You need to hang around to the end of this episode, because in the latter half, we will be discussing a specific strategy to help you with that.
Absolutely. And we're going to take a slightly different tact normal in this episode. And you've been working with clients specifically around beliefs for 30 plus years. So I'm going to do my best to ask all the questions that I think that people will want to know about beliefs, where they come from and how to actually change them. So yeah, very excited for this episode.
Absolutely.
Shall we get cracking?
Let's get cracking on it, yeah.
So when we use the term limiting beliefs, what do we actually mean by that? What are they?
I think it's a thought or a state of mind that we, rightly or wrongly, hold as an absolute truth. And as a result of that, it starts to inform our behaviour unconsciously. That's the key thing. We're not necessarily deciding in the moment to feel nervous, worried, anxious about something, but something's stored away in our brain, past incident or a past experience, that when met with a similar situation in the future, it triggers the same neural pathway almost like putting your cursor over a software program on a computer.
Yeah.
If you press Word, you get Word. If you press PowerPoint, you get PowerPoint. Nothing different comes up because that's what it's designed to do.
So the brain is sort of thinking, oh, hang on, I've been here before, and it may be a positive experience, in which case you would approach that with maybe more confidence, or a more negative experience, which might result in a physiological response and then a different behaviour.
Yeah, so the brain's serving up what it thinks is the right thing for you at that particular time. And if that comes with a big warning, red flashing light, warning light, start breathing deeply, move away from the scene, right? Retract yourself from this dangerous area. Please do not put your hand up and volunteer for a speech. This has led to a disaster in the past, right? and so, the ensuing behaviour isn't moving forward, it's moving backwards.
So it's almost like a lens. So the beliefs actually form a lens, whether it's rose-tinted, blackened or otherwise, through which you observe different situations. And what I might see as something that's exciting and full of opportunities, someone else might see that as a situation of absolute dread based on their own beliefs.
I mean, one way of thinking about it is it's like they are practice thoughts that have been accumulated and confirmed by years of lived experience. So if we repeat the same pattern over and over and over and over again, then that becomes our lived experience.
And so when are they formed? Are they all formed in childhood and confirmed? How does it actually work?
I think I've asked this question hundreds and hundreds of times to people, where do we think beliefs come from? And they're all through, if you think about that last statement, it's lived experience. And that lived experience can go right back, yes, to your childhood. If you're taught by your parents to value something, and that value or living that value becomes your way of getting affection and love, you're going to have a very strong association with that value. And a value, something you hold dear, is really essentially a belief, isn't it? I value it highly, therefore I behave in this way. We joke about the fact that parents will teach young kids never speak to strangers, right? I mean, that's a good belief to have when you're a 4 or 5 year old. Not particularly a healthy belief if you're a salesperson in your 20s and 30s or a networking event. I mustn't speak to strangers, But so we acquire beliefs from our parents, from our siblings, plenty of experience of looking up to our sisters, brothers, and seeing what they're acting, how they're acting and behaving. Perhaps they're a couple of years older than you. Yes. And so therefore you start to model their behaviours. And obviously, things like the schooling years as well. I mean,
and
massively
society
influenced.
more generally as well, I guess. Certain societies that you live
Societal
in.
norms, what is accepted, what is not accepted.
Yeah.
What are we all trying to do essentially is be accepted, and we're trying to fit in, and we don't want to be bumping up against people all the time, except for a few odd people that are happy to do that. Not odd people, but a few people that will be prepared to do that. But most people are what we're trying to do is we're trying to conform to norms. I mean, that is a norm in your family, a norm in the classroom, a norm with your friends, society as general. So where do we get influenced? We get influenced by that immediate environment.
Because am I right in thinking that because beliefs are linked obviously strongly to fears, and am I right in thinking that the only fears that you are born with is the fear of loud noises,
falling,
and falling? So all of the other things that we develop over time have been learned
beliefs
through experience.
Yeah, and that's a good way of thinking about it. If something can be learned, then it can be unlearned. And what you have learned is not the same as what someone else has.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always telling my kids, go and travel. Go and travel and see the world, because if you travel and see the world, you see different societal norms. And what you think is a way of living your life in the UK might be different to in Asia, Australia or America or whatever, Iceland, Norway or whatever.
And something that causes us stress in our world might be a completely normal set of circumstances in another. So I think definitely having a different lens or having the opportunity to see things from a different perspective.
So it's not really necessarily what is right or what is wrong. It's more about whether that belief or that paradigm, viewpoint that you hold of the world or a situation, is it useful?
Yeah.
Is it not useful?
Yeah.
Is it helping you get where you want to go, or is it actually hindering where you want to go? So it's not necessarily saying right or wrong, they're getting it right, we're getting it wrong. I think it's situational, and you've got to ask yourself, well, I'm trying to get from A to B. My goal is to, for example, get promoted or run a business, then I'm going to have a belief that I am self-efficient. I can lead people, that people will take notice of me, that I can speak in public, that I'm worthy of being listened to. You've got to cultivate belief systems that are consistent with the goals you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of the problem, is that often those belief systems aren't aligned to the goals that people have. And that's where the issues come and form. And I guess why a lot of people join our Power Up program, they're trying to get from A to B, but they're finding those past belief systems that they've acquired are just not helping them get there.
Yeah, they call that cognitive dissonance or something, don't they?
Yeah.
Where something that you value and want is at odds with how you are, your beliefs and your behaviours.
Yeah.
So what are some of the limiting beliefs that what are the biggest limiting beliefs that you come across, particularly in the work you do in the corporate marketplace?
Well, I think that first of all, beliefs about self. I mean, if we start with that, those are the really big ones, aren't they? When I look at myself in the mirror, what do I see? What image am I holding of myself? Where am I seeing myself in the world? If you're constantly looking at yourself and thinking, there's always someone better, I'm not deserving of this. How did I arrive at this position? How am I getting away with this? How long am I going to survive in this role? How long will it be before I'm really found out? When will I arrive at a point where I'm going to end up getting exposed?
I know we've talked about this before, and it's, people in very senior positions have these thoughts, don't they? It's not just on the way up. It's actually people that are really
maybe
in very
arguably more so
roles.
because if you reach a heady height, there's much further to fall, and there's a much higher expectation upon you. And actually, that's where we talked about this before. Imposter syndrome you start to feel an imposter in this new world of this newly promoted role. How on earth did I get here?
Yeah.
Now, the opposite of that doesn't mean narcissists, arrogance, overly confident. There is a middle ground in believing in yourself, healthy, confident beliefs about self that are modified with the grace of humility that allow you to not get ahead of yourself. And it's not about, I don't believe in this sort of, superior confidence. It's an appropriate level of confidence, an appropriate level of belief in self that helps you get where you want to go.
Yeah.
So those are beliefs about self. There are then beliefs, you could argue that there are beliefs about your own potential. It's how do I see myself? Where do I see my capabilities, my potential? And what do I think I can grow into? Do I see myself beyond where I am today?
Yeah.
Or am I putting a lid on where I am? I've always been this person, and therefore I always will be. I've always been a middle of the road kind of individual. I'm never going to be a high flyer.
Yeah, I'm not a leader. I'm a follower type of individual. It's quite interesting, actually, and I can't remember. I think we sort of touched on this in imposter syndrome as well. But, in my early career at Ernst & Young, the way things were set up then, I mean, fantastic organisation, loved every second. The way things were set up then were professional staff, support staff. And so the construct in that organisation and in a lot of professional services organisation is that there is a box, if you like, that you are in, and that construct actually then informs your belief. If you're a support staff, there's only so far you can go, and few cross the bridge between the two.
Value adding, not as smart or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not like that now. I know things have changed, but in the traditional approach, I can see how what you're saying will manifest itself.
So though, that is, do you feel that, we allude to this, the growth mindset, do you feel you can grow into something bigger than you actually are? So your belief about your potential, super, super important. And when you ask most people, how much of your potential do you think you're tapping? It's often quite a reduced number from where people are. And the question is, do they actually think they can close that gap?
Yeah.
They might say, well, I'm only operating maybe 60%. Some people might say, I'm up to capacity. I don't have any more to give. I can't see myself. Well, the thing is about belief systems, if you argue for your limitations, what you end up doing is getting to keep them.
So you could have a belief that you can give, is what you're saying. You could have a belief that you have more to give, but on the flip side of that and the unhelpful side of that is that you're limited by something, whether that's another belief, which is, but I can't do that in this environment, or I'm hampered in some way. There's some sort of blocker, some sort of wall that gets in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, there are obviously, if you extend those out, you've got beliefs about society, beliefs about opportunity. You could look in your own individual country right now. I mean, people have been talking about the onset of a recession for some time. Yeah, I mean, it's useful. It's sensible and intelligent to be aware of the economics of your individual country. Going out and being blasé about it and ignoring it would be stupid and ignorant. But it will say at the same time, you can see how I'm not going to make that decision yet. I want to see how it goes. I get this a lot. When people think about signing up to a Power Up, which is a life-changing program. Do you know what I think I'm going to do, Lisa? I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to put my life on hold for a little bit longer. I'm going to see how things go the next few months. Oh, why is that, Martin? Oh, why is that? We're not sure what's around the corner. And there is no perfect time to start making your life better. Doesn't matter whether you're in the middle of a recession or not. It's nothing to do with that. You need the extra belief to get through a potential recession if there is one coming, etc.
And I guess because your mind, is naturally designed to keep yourself safe. If there is any question about unsafe situation or lack of safety, you're going to retreat.
Well, that's a natural inclination of the brain, is to protect you.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes it so difficult.
Yeah.
It's why it is also difficult. So beliefs about the world, beliefs about opportunity, beliefs about your company, beliefs about people you work with.
Yeah.
You can go on and on and on. I think it's just useful to think about. You might interchange the word belief. People don't tend to necessarily use the word belief in a more general sense in everyday life. They don't go around saying, I believe this about the economy. I believe about this person I work with. They have thoughts about it.
Yeah.
They have thoughts. They go, I've been thinking about that. And, I might ask a friend of mine, what do you think about, what do you think the prospects are in the next few months? Or what do you think about the stability of the world right now?
Yeah.
What's going on, the geopolitics, the wars and the world, etc. When they express that view, they're expressing a thought. Yeah. And that thought is based on a set of beliefs. If I challenge them slightly and I don't disagree with them and they start digging deep, then they know there is some strongly held beliefs about that.
Yeah.
I'm always asking myself the question, well, is that actually going to help you get where you want to go? A lot of people are putting a lot of effort into avoiding a situation or a world that hasn't happened yet. So they're devising something in their head that might happen. There's a probability of it might happening. What if?
Yeah.
And they're putting a huge amount of effort into avoiding that. It hasn't even happened yet. So where are they creating that reality from? They're creating that reality from a belief system and a set of thoughts.
And that's subjective based on the journey that you've travelled to date.
Your interpretation of events and what they mean to you is going to shape what actions you're likely to take. Remember, this podcast, Power Up, it is about people wanting to take action.
Yeah.
If you don't want anything to change, you don't want to improve your social circumstances, your quality of your relationships, your prosperity, your health, your life, or any aspect of it, it doesn't matter what you think, does it? It really doesn't matter. But just the context here, we are talking about progression.
Yeah.
We're talking about change. We're talking about moving forward. We're talking about unshackling ourselves from things that are holding us back. So just to remind the listener, that's what we're talking about, is how do we untangle those things from the past that might be unwittingly, by the way, holding you back.
And I think it's about giving people the awareness is that you do not have to be shackled to those things. If you're playing a movie in your mind, which is a horror movie, you can change the movie. So I think the first thing is to understand that as it takes time, but these can be changed. And I know you've done a lot of research recently, particularly looking at Andrew Huberman's work. and the
Science
difference
behind it,
between beliefs and behaviours. Not the difference, but the things that we're actually trying to change. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
I mean, the starting question for anybody listening to this is, what is it you really want to change? Do you want to change the belief, or do you want to change the behaviour? Well, ultimately, what we do every day is behaviour. So really what we're looking for is a change in our behaviour, what we're likely to do and what we're likely to say, the actions we're likely to take. However, what we do know is that your belief systems is what informing the behaviour. So if we want to get a long-lasting, sustainable change in our default behaviour, whatever that might be, you have to unpack what is causing that behaviour. Why do you behave? Why does person A behave in a certain way and person B behave in a very different way? Are they giving a huge amount of conscious thought in the moment? Probably not. Right? It's based on an unconscious wiring. There's a saying that post-hurt informs future fear.
Yeah.
The same brain that is creating this illusionary future is now trying to avoid it. So we've created this image of what might be, and that's what I was referring to just now about the effort we're putting into avoiding something that's unlikely to happen. We're creating the future in our heads based on these past programming, and now the very same brain that created that ridiculous image, that falsehood, that untruth, the very same brain is now trying to avoid it. Isn't that weird? That's just crazy.
I mean, it just sounds crazy when you put it like that.
Well, it is crazy, isn't it?
It's like having your foot on the brake and the accelerator at the same time.
I'm creating the pain that I want to avoid. I don't actually want that pain, but I'm going to create the pain, and now I'm going to put a lot of effort into avoiding the pain.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the pain's not even there. Some people aren't even feeling the pain.
Yeah.
So
if I had a belief that I was not good at public speaking, which could have been formed by reading out loud in my class at school and everyone laughing at me because I stumbled over my words. So if I have a belief that's ingrained over time that public speaking is not for me, then the behaviour that will show up is either sweaty palms, stumbling over my words in front of an audience of 500.
Not being able to speak, full stop.
Or avoiding it
completely.
altogether.
Which can be changed. That is the point. We don't have to hold on to that. Otherwise what we start doing is say, I'm completely hopeless at public speaking. I'm just useless. Oh, no, I don't. The thought of standing up, I get this question a lot. You stand up in front of people all the time. The thought of standing up in front of people, oh my goodness me, I could never do that. I could never do that, hear that language. I could never do that. Untruth. Yeah. You could do it. But and I do like to remind people that before I started as a professional public speaker, facilitator, doing presentations, long before that, I had a job as a sales director that involved me doing public speaking. And my very early days of doing that, I literally would be, literally reaching in my stomach at the fear of doing it. So I remember I was reasonably good at it, but I still had a lot of fear around it. So I do empathise with people. I'm not dismissing these things as, it's silly and ridiculous.
No, they're real. The brain doesn't know the difference between something that is real or vividly imagined. So for the body's sake and the mind's sake, it is real. The bad outcome you are visualising or projecting in your movie of your mind is real.
Well, Joe Dispenza, one of my favourite, speakers. He's just so brilliant at explaining these concepts and encourage people to listen to anything that he does. He talks a lot about how it's your body. Your body is literally controlling what you're doing because you're feeling the symptoms of those stored beliefs in your physical body. So if you're getting a feeling in the pit of your stomach, is it your brain that's controlling you or is it your body? It's actually your body. Your body is, but it's so strong, that neural pathway, that we start believing the body. Yeah. Well, if we understand the neuroscience, which we'll go into, we can actually change that feeling. And therefore, if you have a changed feeling, then that is going to change. Feelings lead to behavior, beliefs lead to feelings, and feelings lead to behavior. We can change. But it's a reverse thing. You can change the body. Yeah. That will change the feeling. You can change the belief that will then change the feeling and change the behaviour. Yeah. So they're all, it's like a cycle. And we're going to look at how we can actually pinpoint how we can deconstruct those neural pathways that we've developed over such a long period of time. The body is accepting them as truths.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking from discussion we've had before, it is not about changing, these neural pathways. They are there, but it's about lessening the impact of them and replacing. You can replace.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of them,
Well,
altogether.
everything that's happened to you ever has been recorded.
It's all stored, yeah.
It's Google. It's a massive storage device, and that's why, particularly under hypnosis, it's incredible what we can remember.
Yeah.
Unbelievable detail. Where's that come from? It's all stored.
Yeah.
So they're going to stay there. Which of the programs do you want to fire up? Which of the memories do you want to fire up?
And also
Positive ones, negative ones?
Like in phobia cures and that sort of thing, you can still have that neural pathway is still there. You just view it with a different lens because of the work you've done to change it.
Change does not happen without some form of need or motivation.
Yeah.
And you can be listening to this and just hear it as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What we really want to do is we want to talk about the impact.
Yes.
What's it costing you?
Yeah.
What's the impact of this? To give ourselves some motivation to want to do something about it. I think it's worthwhile saying that all beliefs, they all, like most behaviours which flow out of beliefs, have a positive intention. And as you mentioned earlier, Lisa, the brain's main job is to minimise danger.
Yeah.
And a large part of our brain, a large part of our resources dedicated to making sure we keep safe. What is the purpose of life? To keep ourselves safe, procreate, and survive. So, of course, a large part of our resources dedicated to keeping ourselves away from danger.
Mm-hmm.
It's just recognising when that is useful and not useful. Yeah. As we were alluding to earlier. But just remembering that, I wouldn't be beating myself up for having a fear of public speaking or a fear of building a relationship or fear of rejected or failure or any of those things. I wouldn't beat myself up for that. No. Just say that's just a normal part of life. That is just your brain.
It's your brain doing its work.
It's doing its work. It's trying to help you. So it's accepting that as a norm, not as something which is a bit weird about me, but just know that if you want to change the operating system, if you like, then there are pathways to be able to do that.
And I think, people could be listening to this thinking, yeah, I get that. That all makes total sense. I guess in order for people to actually do something with it, we need to look at what the impact of holding on to these limiting beliefs might be. So what do you see in the work that you do, as the impact of not actually doing the work on these things?
Well, first of all, you raise a very important point, and that is unless you can get some sort of leverage on yourself for positive change, it's very unlikely you will do anything about it. And I've been doing this type of work for 30 odd years. The only people that really change, they've got the tools to change. They've had the tools to change repeatedly over their life, but they haven't done it. The point at which they change is when there's a big enough need. Yeah,
it's a bit like the old, keeping fit thing. You see plenty of people fast walking along the street looking like they've just been told that if they don't do this, then there's a catastrophic event, around the corner.
And what a shame that is, because you're straining yourself to the nth degree, and then you're finally doing something about it. This is about making intelligent decisions upstream so you don't even get into that situation.
Yes. Yeah.
So there has to be, what the point is, there has to be a reason behind the change, and that is actually a key part of the belief change process. So just reflecting, I would ask anyone to reflect on any belief they have and just ask themselves the question, where does this belief show up in my personal and professional life that stops me? And does that actually bother me? So whether it's personal or professional, I think you have to ask yourself the question, is this belief I hold, where is it actually showing up? So is it showing up in my personal life? Am I not meeting people? Am I not feeling confident in social circles? Am I not building relationships with people? Or holding on to relationships. Maybe you don't feel you deserve someone who is fantastic in your life that's going to make you feel good. A lot of relationship issues are not necessarily down to compatibility. It's down to the fact that one person is rejecting someone else because they don't think they deserve them.
Yes, yeah. And We saw that on Married at First Sight just last night. I don't watch that, do you?
I've never seen the programme. I don't know what you're talking about.
E4. Based on, what we explored before then, because people might be thinking, I don't know what the belief is, but are you saying think of the situations that feel, there's a bit of friction, there's a bit of unease, there's a bit of a feeling that is manifesting itself, discomfort, something like that. Then, because that's often, the behaviour or the feeling and the behaviour, then look at what is that situation. So what am I believing about that situation?
Think about situations that you later regret. I wish I had asked that question.
Okay, yeah.
I wish I had, why didn't I approach that person? Why didn't I connect with that person? Why don't I put my why didn't I say that? I really wanted to ask them this question. I really wanted to go and speak to somebody. Sitting in a meeting professionally and the boss asks a question, you get an idea in your head, it pops into your head. And you nearly run away with yourself and answer the question. A little demon pops up in your head. Potential stupid idea. Potential idiotic behaviour.
Retreat.
Retreat. Reverse. Do not speak until you thought this through. Someone else then comes up with exactly the same point because you're liberating on it. And you think, damn, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Could be with a client. You with a client, and you see there's a more difficult question you need to ask, about to blurt the question out, and a little trigger comes up and goes, possible rejection, might think I'm stupid, might walk into some conflict here. Will I be able to handle the conflict? You leave the meeting. A couple of hours later, you're sitting there thinking about it and thinking, why did I not just ask the question?
Yeah. So it's clear that it, is going to limit opportunities, at the highest degree, if you really are controlled by limiting beliefs, it's going to put a massive big blocker on, whatever it is that you want to achieve.
As I said earlier, people are putting a huge amount of effort into avoiding a future that hasn't happened yet. They will, potentially not go for the promotion they think they deserve, and they're watching somebody bypass them. They are maybe not actually doing the job they really want to do.
Yeah.
They're doing a job that they feel they can do that is within their comfort zone, but they're not really doing the job they really want to do.
Belief might be, I should feel lucky that I have a job.
That'll keep you doing a job you feel dissatisfied with. At least I've got a job.
Yeah.
I should feel lucky about that. And so therefore, yes, absolutely, stay in that same role.
I saw a really good quote. I think she's a poet, an American poet, Susie Kazem. And she said, thinking kills more dreams than failure ever will. And that's what you're saying in a nutshell.
What other areas of... so we're talking about personally and professionally. Obviously, the main focus of our work is professional. I have seen many, many instances over the years where I've worked with clients who have perhaps, one in particular comes to mind where this person was going through a selection process, a professional services firm to become a partner, which being from professional services is a very big step.
Yep.
And it's taken very seriously, and quite often there's quite vigorous assessments to get through to be selected, present a business case, and then finally be accepted into a partner group. And this particular individual was put forward for nomination to become a partner. Very successful, brilliant client work, very bright, very sharp, very well liked by the clients and by his client teams. Put him into an environment with lots of other potential candidates, and suddenly this person literally, fallen to pieces.
Yeah.
This individual was brought to me and said, this person's performed very poorly in the assessment process. However, we want to give them another chance. We really believe in themselves. The problem is they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
So I met with this individual, and kind of very long story short, but one of the questions I asked, so I said, look, could you, on a piece of paper, I'm going to leave the room, and I want you to write on this piece of paper anything, absolutely anything about yourself you think might be a potential barrier, particularly in the context of going through this selection process. Yeah. And I said, imagine, I want you to just empty everything onto this piece of paper, and no one is going to see it. We'll destroy it afterwards. It'll be left in the room. The only people that have seen it be me and you, and we're going to get rid of it afterwards. But anything you don't write on there, I want you to imagine it's going to stay with you. So if you don't write it down, if you've got a limiting belief or a limiting thought, could haunt you. I'm playing a bit here with him, but so I say just get it on a piece of paper, right? Don't be limited by the size of the piece of paper either. Write everything down. Everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I leave, I come back. Turns out this guy is not your typical kind of professional services track individual. Right, he comes from a very humble background. He hasn't gone to a posh school. I don't think he actually went to university. I can't remember. I think it might have been part of it. He certainly didn't go to a posh school. He didn't have private education like a lot of his colleagues. And these were all part of his limiting makeup.
Yeah.
He said, I'm in this environment and I just don't want them. Please don't ask me where I went to school. Please don't ask me because I know you're going to have gone to all these, posh schools in Eton or whatever. And
so going back to what we were saying earlier about societal,
Winchester or wherever posh school they went to,
Yeah.
and so I please don't ask me that question. Please don't ask me a question of what my parents do for a living. My father's a builder, and my mother works as some sort of role in a school support or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, not professional, not very low income. Please don't ask me anything about. I hear something like operas. Classical music. I don't know anything about this. I mean, I'm fearing. So what does he do? He shuts down, avoids eye contact, doesn't speak a lot, and it just becomes a get-through experience. Interestingly enough, though, when he's one-on-one with a client, his potential comes out.
Wow.
But in this environment, he shrinks to a much smaller version of himself because of these beliefs.
And you would think that the client environment there was more at stake than there would be in the
He's on his own.
relative safety of your own.
He's got credibility with a client. He knows his stuff. He's technically brilliant.
Yeah.
They're respecting
Wow.
him. He's very, very trustworthy. But in this environment, he shrinks to a much smaller version. And of course, the person that sponsored him is absolutely shocked at this. He's come out bottom of the class, basically, rather than being
probably going
at
in
the
there
top.
expecting him to be dead cert, sail through, and then sees
so
this. Yeah.
we started to change this around. There was lots of other things. I'm too short. My accent isn't as posh as everyone else. So we do some work on these belief systems. And I said to him, what could be really fantastic about the fact you didn't go to a posh school, you went to a comprehensive, you were brought up in a council house and very humble beginnings. Your mother and father don't have professional degrees or educated or anything like that. What could be great about that? Imagine being a partner in this firm and a time when we're doing our level best to increase our levels of diversity.
Yeah, attract new talent.
What could be great about it? I mean, just imagine your story. Imagine you standing on a stage telling your story. And let's go a couple of years on. You've now established as a partner. You've been very successful. There's no reason why you shouldn't be, because you have been brilliant with your clients. And you're standing on a stage in front of would-be hopefuls and telling a story. What would that story sound like? Tell me the story now. And he started telling me the story. He started getting really excited about it. You could see his eyes changing.
Taking on
He's
the
sitting
new
up
identity.
in the seat.
Because it is the identity, isn't it? Yeah,
Exactly. And I said to him, how have these beliefs been, like we're talking about here, what they've been costing you? He cited lots of things, how long it took him to get into this role, opportunities he didn't take on, society things he avoided. And I said, do people really care? Does it really matter whether you know about classical music, opera, or whatever? What do you know a lot about? So you know a lot about enough things to be interesting and be impactful. So in other words, what we did is we reframed all these things. Needless to say, with a few extra sessions, it wasn't just one session, a few extra sessions tackling some of the other things and looking at how we could strengthen some of these new empowering beliefs. He went from the bottom to the top. Absolutely crushed it the next time. Because he stood up. His view of himself amongst that peer group was very different.
And how long does that sort of thing take? I mean, obviously it takes a lifetime to create and ingrain those beliefs. How long does it take to change them?
When someone's got the motivation, very, very quickly. For it to become an embedded new neural pathway, like the metaphor we were, click on word comes up, click on PowerPoint, click on doing a public presentation, boom, no problem, I'll just do it. Standing in a meeting with my peer group, feeling confident, click on it, bang. Maybe a little while, maybe a little bit of time to get that so deeply embedded that it's your default program.
But you can very quickly turn down the dial.
very, very quickly.
Amazing.
I mean, and actually dramatically quickly. And I think this is the challenge with belief change. And you've heard me talk about this before, Lisa. The biggest challenge with belief change is the belief that you can change a belief.
Yes.
That is the biggest barrier. People just are wedded, so wedded.
They just think, oh, this is just the way I am.
Yeah.
You know, that's the lot I've been served in life. No, you can change it.
Yeah. So change your beliefs about changing beliefs. And fortunately, over many years, my belief in changing beliefs has so massively increased because I've seen it before my own eyes. Sometimes to the point I can't even believe what I'm seeing.
You want to change your belief on that.
It's just so quick. And
I think there's a lot of research that's been done as well, you know, with the likes of Andrew Huberman.
That's what we can talk about.
And all of the others.
That shows... Actually, we're a bunch of electrical circuits that are creating a neurological response, which is manifested in feelings somewhere in the body. And when we understand how those neurological circuits have been wired, that we can rewire them a different way.
Yeah.
So that's really, I've just asked people to pause and think, and maybe even as you're listening to this, think about a specific belief or a specific behaviour, more likely, that you would like to change. And it could be absolutely anything. It could be a habit, an unuseful habit.
Yeah, personally, professionally, with your family.
One of the things I was talking to someone about the other day, actually, it keeps coming up over and over again, is scrolling. Right? People have got into this habit.
Yeah.
It's like the new addiction.
Yeah.
Is social media useful? Absolutely. There's some brilliant material, and you can access so much intelligence, but also it can be just a mindless activity that can take away minutes, hours of your time. And so that's becoming it's like an addiction. Whether it could be something like that. Yeah. It could be something bigger, like...
Or it could be, networking, going to an event on your own and meeting, new groups
feeling
of
confident
people,
in a social environment.
Yeah.
Going for a promotion, volunteering more at work.
Learning a new skill.
Taking on a new role, learning a new skill, anything, right? Absolutely anything at all. Think about how has that current belief system potentially been hindering and holding you back? What does it actually cost you to date? Are you really prepared to continue for another 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years with that? Hopefully not. Yeah. And if not, then, now's the time to sit up in your chair, grab a pen, all right, and let's get to work.
We've explored where the beliefs come from in the first place and the impact that they have. And we've really emphasised the point that you have a choice and that you can actually do something about it. So hopefully the listeners are armed with a belief or behaviour that they wish to change. Let's get our sleeves rolled up and get into it. So where do we start?
I think the best place to start is to actually understand a little bit about the science, because I think what I found in sharing belief change strategies is that when someone understands the logical science behind how they're created, it somehow helps that belief about belief change.
Yeah, it strengthens the belief in the possibility of being able to change.
Look at the alternative. Lisa, be positive. That's about the worst. Yeah, okay, it's got a positive intention, but it's not very helpful.
Or it might be just, that's just the way you are. Get on with it.
All you need to do is just change your belief. Let's think positive. Let's change your belief. Write down something different, and let's start believing in that. Yeah. I mean, that at a very surface level, whilst it's true to a certain extent, it doesn't help the person that wants to change really understand it's actually going to work. It all feels a little bit kind of pump them up and glaze them over.
Yeah, it's like papering over the crack, isn't it? Yeah.
So by understanding that you had an experience, and you repeated that experience. So you had an experience, and let's say the experience wasn't very good. Right? I can think about an early experience of dogs. All right. So fear of barking dog. My mother, every time we used to see a dog or a dog barking, she'd move away. Young child clocks a parent moving away from dog, think, obviously they're a danger, all right? Now, if we ever went to anyone's house and the dog was barking, clearly I was going to get eaten, all right? And then if you open the door and the dog comes forward, mouth open, and starts pawing me, I am definitely about to be eaten.
Yeah.
So I'd be absolutely freaking out. And she's trying to stand in front of me, and the dog's thinks it's a bit of a game. And, you know how the whole thing works. And I've been a dog owner for a long time now, and I know this to be very, very
vicious dog.
Very friendliest dog on the planet, exactly, right. So I know this to be very, very, not to be the truth. If you think about it in a very simple way, there is an experience that's created. And I sort of think about this as like, if you think about how the brain is a series of what we call these synaptic connections, electrical pulses that are connecting from one neuron to another.
So that laid a cable.
Yeah, it's like what does Joe Dispenza always say? Neurons that fire together wire together.
Yeah.
In other words, once that circuit's been created, if you then have the same experience again, it's like a little thin piece of cotton then suddenly becomes a piece of string, the neural pathway. It's like I'm trying to think about a neural pathway being like a freeway or a motorway.
Yeah.
Nice big open lane, and you go straight down it, and you've created this really easy track for this thought to run down. Piece of string becomes a piece of rope, and then it becomes thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and then it's almost unbreakable. Yeah. Of course, some of those things might be useful, but as we're talking about things that are not so useful. So you've got this sort of neural circuitry that has been created, and if you like, there is almost like I think we were discussing earlier how it's got a bit tangled up in knots.
Yes.
All right. And, to try and actually veer off in a different direction, you've got this big knot. The weird phenomenon, isn't it, about cables? You put a cable in your bag, which you think you've folded up, you pull it back out, and it's in a complete mess. And it's got a knot. How did the knot get there? I didn't put the knot in there.
And you've got all the other cables entwined in there as well.
And it takes an inordinate amount of time to unknot it, or a chain even worse.
Yeah.
All right. And they even make these cables now, so they're sort of unknottable. All right. Now, if you think about it, left to our own devices, unconsciously, we will create these knots.
Yeah.
To unknot the knot physically, we have to pay conscious attention. We have to get the cable.
You have to do something with it.
Did it by itself, so to speak, almost unconsciously? But now here I am holding this cable or a piece of string or a chain, and I'm trying to consciously unknot it. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're having to do here. We have to pay conscious attention to the unconscious belief that we've created.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I use this metaphor of you can go to skid control classes and get better at keeping the car on the road, you learn visualization, positive thinking or whatever. Or better still, take the car off the road, put it on a ramp, find out why it's going into a skid. And then the car doesn't go into a skid anymore.
Yeah.
That's the belief system. So what is the belief, the trigger, the neural pathway that is causing this reaction in my body, anxious, anxiety, fear, that's stopping me from taking action?
Yeah.
That's step one. Now, not step one, but that is understanding. I'm trying to give a metaphor here to understand what we're trying to do. So think about it as a new electrical impulse, this neural pathway in the brain, and we're trying to create new neural pathways. As you said earlier, that neural pathway has already been laid out.
Yeah.
So what we've got to do is replace it with something. So rather than going down route A, I'm going to go down another route. I'm going to take a different road.
Recognizing when you get to this point or this situation, there is a choice.
I want to do that as unconsciously as I was the old system. The very first thing we want to do, we've already talked about, and that is actually name the behaviour you want to change. What is the actual behaviour you're looking for that you really want to change? I mean, we're talking about a belief here, but what we were saying earlier is that really you might say, okay, it's the willingness to speak up a bit more in meetings, not be so shy, not to have this negative belief there's always someone better, or not to have the belief that I would never make a great leader.
Yeah, or put your hand up to do the difficult task or the new project.
Etc., etc. Yeah.
So you name the behaviour you want to change, is that?
You name the behaviour and you have to be as precise about it as possible. This is something Andrew Huberman, and by the way, keep referencing Andrew Huberman Lab, professor at Stanford University, brilliant.
The way he describes very complex neuroscience
brilliant
theories, neuroscience theories is just unbelievable.
I mean, be prepared for a long form podcast of huge proportions.
Yeah.
But
they're
he will
fantastic.
definitely explain. So one of the things he talks a lot about is the need for specificity, right? You really got to be specific and precise as you can about what is stopping you, what is actually stopping you, what is the chain of events. If you can label it, give awareness to it, that's what we need to do. And
because he says, doesn't he, by being really specific, because the brain loves stories, by being really specific, you start the process of change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remembering what we're kind of doing here, there is one part there's the letting go bit. So what we're talking about here is the letting go of the old belief. And then there is the sort of, Andrew Huberman calls it grabbing hold.
Yeah,
He talks
so
about
the moving towards.
Yeah, and the moving towards. Yeah. You've got to be prepared. You've got to work on getting rid of the old or replacing or acknowledging the old and acknowledging that there is, there's a process for doing that, which is what we're going through now. And then the next bit is actually grabbing hold, embracing the new.
Yeah.
So first of all, name the behaviour, be as precise as you can. The second thing we need to do, we were talking about that before, you've got to get leverage. Why do you really want to change? Because how are you going to motivate yourself? You're already motivated, by the way, to avoid the action. You've got plenty of motivation to not put your hand up.
Do that naturally.
You've got plenty of motivation. Your system is geared to not taking action. We're associating a lot of pain with that new behaviour or the behaviour you want to produce. So you've got to intelligently really think about why you need to change. And that's what you were talking about a few moments ago, is what is it actually costing you? Don't exaggerate this. Don't necessarily, the brain needs to be believable.
Yeah.
So I think if you over-egg this and you exaggerate it, you're just exaggerating it.
Yeah, the
right?
brain will go,
Sure.
happen.
That's never going to happen,
It
right?
will never happen. That
You've got plenty of life experience of avoiding stuff, right? You've been avoiding things that will make you feel good for a long time. You've been avoiding things that will get you where you want to go. You've got plenty of experience in this. You've been doing it for long enough.
Yeah.
20, 30, 40, 50 years, I don't know how long, but you're very well practiced at it. So think about those things, that where in those circumstances, what has it been costing you, and write down the reasons you really want to change. Again, be as specific as possible. Really, really important to do that. And also the flip side of that is, what do you stand to gain? Let's play with the possibility. I know this is a difficult one for people, because to get to the gain point, you've got to somehow entertain the idea that you could be different.
Yeah.
So what is the upside? And again, be realistic about that. What new things would open up to you? What new things would you start to do? Again, whether this is personal, professional, write them down.
And which provides more motivation? Do you have to amp up both, or is the pain more of a motivator, or does it depend on the person?
As we discussed earlier, because the brain and our brain's main operating system is to avoid danger, if you can, Tony Robbins, great speaker, he's very famous for his sort of pain pleasure tool that he talks about. And the concept there, if you load enough pain to the not doing the behaviour and ramp up the pleasure for exhibiting the new behaviour, if you can make the old behaviour, you've got to make the old behaviour, the existing behaviour, undesirable.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's not getting you what you want, but you're getting a secondary benefit. So when I say to somebody, by avoiding putting your hand up, by avoiding going for promotion, what's the secondary gain? Well, there's no gain. Yes, there is. What is the gain?
Must be, because you're
not going to get rejected.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got to flip that around.
There will be pain, therefore, in not going towards the gain. If the gain is something that you can entertain, that you want, there is pain associated with not doing.
Exactly, that is the costing you question. What is it costing you?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think there's two pains. There's a pain associated with what it's costing you, but there's also a pain associated with not actually taking action. Do you know what I mean? The gain that you set to achieve or acquire, there is a pain associated with not going for that. So the pain is the thing that is the motivating you.
What we're trying to do in summary is pleasure if I don't take action, pain if I do.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is say, is pain if I don't take action and pleasure if I do.
Yeah.
Right? That's the switch we're trying to make.
Yeah.
So one is, articulating the cost, and then what's the attribution what do you
Yes.
stand to gain? That's
Yeah.
what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So get that sorted and get clear on those things and be prepared to do it. Actually, I think it's really important to actually write it out.
Yeah.
Because when you see it in black and white, one of the things you can actually start to do is a bit weird, is you can start to almost ridicule the ridiculousness of your own belief, because as we said earlier, they are actually quite often ridiculous.
Yeah.
So try and look at it on paper and think, why would you believe that?
I mean, and you could even share that with somebody else as well, couldn't you, I guess? Just, just talk it through with someone obviously friendly.
We know that actually helps
Yeah.
if you share it with other people, and actually other people are looking at it and going, well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to take on that belief system.
Step 1 then is naming behaviour and getting really clear, creating a really clear story of when it occurs. Step 2 is the pain versus the gain, and getting really clear on what it's costing you and what you set to gain.
Yeah, I think about it as a
that
cost. As a cost on one side and a gain on the other.
Yeah, and write it down. What's step 3?
Step 3 is to put it within a time frame. And this is quite important, because in the past, I know I used to do this. I used to sort of think, right, I'm going to give myself 3 months, right? I am going to, in 3 months' time, I'm going to do a talk. I'm going to do my first blog.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my first social post. I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to, et cetera, et cetera. Or someone might say that, I'm going to work on my belief systems, and then I'm going to ask for promotion in 3 months, whatever, build my confidence up or whatever. Now, challenge with that is that's a long time to wait for the brain to wait for any form of reward.
And a lot of time to let yourself off the hook.
And exactly. How the brain works, as we know, is we get a little the reward system in the brain releases the brain chemical dopamine. That's a little high you get, a little, great feeling you get from a tiniest of reward. Anything you've done that moves you towards the goal. So if you break the behavior right down and you say to yourself, right, I'm going to do this 3 days in a row.
Okay.
I'm going to do it 3 days in a row. Whenever I go to a meeting, the next 3 meetings, online, offline, I'm going to speak up first. I'm going to speak up more than I typically would. I might feel nervous. I might feel anxious, but I'm going to push through it and I'm going to speak up.
Yeah.
Now, if you set that as your goal and you do it and you finish the meeting, guess how you're going to feel?
Yeah.
You're going to feel great because you didn't die. No one said you were stupid. No one said it was didn't embarrass yourself. Hopefully, right? Right. I'm only joking. Sorry, increasing that fear there.
So the idea is that you have several of those opportunities for celebration.
That is the key thing.
Yeah. So the more horizons, as you put it, the more rewards you get it.
This is super, super important.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that, I've learned really from Andrew Huberman about multiple horizons, multiple rewards is much better than waiting for, because as you said earlier, brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined.
No.
So if you keep on giving it those little mini hits, guess what you're doing? You keep strengthening that neural pathway. Oh, I see. Oh, I got that. I did that. And it's a gradual thing. You're teaching the brain to behave in a different way.
Yeah. To gradually one will slowly replace the other.
If you think about it, we do respond to reward. And whether that reward is in the form of something sizable, like a promotion or a money or love or whatever it is, there could be tiny little things.
Or even your boss just saying, I really like what you said in that meeting.
Exactly. Precisely that. Or just an acknowledgement that you spoke up where you didn't normally speak up.
I guess, though, that the most reliable source of reward comes from yourself, and if you can have those many horizons and many rewards that you give yourself, not relying on someone
People
externally.
do tend to believe themselves more than they believe other people.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So absolutely. So that regular reward, and know that you're moving towards something, but you're rewarding yourself on the way. It's like the classic, someone wants to start getting fit.
Yeah.
And they say, right, when I have lost, 30 pounds, 20 pounds, 10 pounds, then I will.
Buy myself a new wardrobe.
Whatever. That is too long to wait.
Yeah.
What about all the effort you put in? The tiny runs you've done, the fact that you've...
It leads to that all or nothing mentality, doesn't it? Oh, I didn't do it this one day, so I failed.
The fact that you turned down the offer of a drink, you turned down the offer of something that was sweet, you had less food on your plate. Those are all rewards.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all things you should be acknowledging.
And celebrating.
Yeah. And that is a far more successful way of getting your brain to get used to the change and rewarding your brain for that change. And as we know, that the more you do that consistently, the longer you want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
The longer you do a habit, you feel better about it, don't you?
So where we've got to so far then is to get really clear on the behaviour that you want to change, get really clear on the motivation behind changing it, and think about the time frame and those multiple horizons, if you like, so you can have multiple celebrations. What advice would you give somebody that's really struggling to change a deeply ingrained belief showing up in a behaviour consistently, so they understand intellectually the process, but they're struggling to do that consistently?
First thing I'd say is that deeply ingrained new behaviour, and the brain doesn't really care. All right, it's you could argue, yes, you've been doing something for longer. It is deeper. Well, avoid subscribing to the idea, wow, this is like Martin, you need to understand, I've been doing this for a long time. Yeah, this is so deeply ingrained in my mind. I mean, I cannot see. Do you see the language that somebody is using? Right? The language they're using, it's like this massive, huge thing that is immovable. They've got it's almost like if they were painting a picture of it, it would be like a massive big boulder. Yeah. How about seeing it as a light little ping pong ball size, that I can flick away anytime I want, rather than this huge movable boulder. Yeah. So I think that I would say to someone, caution against using language that makes the belief sound almost impossible to move. Yeah. You need to play with the idea that you can actually change fairly quickly. And remember, the process of the consequences of the cost of the belief, holding on to it, getting leverage on yourself, understanding what the upside is a massive, massive step forward. And even just the conscious acknowledgement of this unconscious behaviour in itself is huge, huge. There's a lovely phrase I read, Anthony D'Amelio, great writer. He uses the phrase that awareness itself is curative. Don't underestimate the impact of even what you were doing so far. Yeah. Just that pure awareness and that thought. Next time you go to do it, there will be a little jump. It's like a little pattern interrupt. Yeah. Right? It's like, the old vinyl record scratching them. It doesn't play quite the same way. The needle can't run in the same groove anymore. So that is quite often sufficient for you to stop in that moment and go, okay.
This is when I used to.
Right. It's what I used to do. Yeah. This used to trigger, it's like the kind of CBD, it's all therapy, it's all about activating event, belief, consequence. Yes. ABC. And then what you do, the therapist, what will do is they'll challenge that belief. So the idea is you challenge, is this true? Yeah. And that's probably one of the things to do here, is to start disabling the belief. There's a metaphor I've used for a number of years. The table, if you like, the tabletop represents the belief. The legs underneath it are the references. These are the experiences you've had that have created that belief. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to cut off those legs and replace them with new experiences. Just challenging this belief I hold that I'm not good enough. Like the chap I was telling you about professional services. Yeah. Is it really true you're not good enough? Yeah. Are there people just like you who have made partner, who've become hugely successful? Yes. Is it possible for someone to become hugely successful without going to a posh school?
So you're trying to reveal the flaws in your argument.
It's disputing, it's disregarding it, it's disabling it, It's shaking the very foundations. And hearing yourself introspect on that, or doing it with somebody, but you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that true? Is that true? How do you, I mean, Byron Katie, another great belief change expert, she has these questions where she says, you write down the belief, you say, is that true? And then the next question is, can you absolutely know that it is the truth? And every time when someone asks that question, the answer is no. So you're now acknowledging to yourself that this belief you're holding, you think is true, is actually not true.
Yeah.
All right? It creates the sufficient agitation to the foundations of that belief. It loosens it.
Yeah.
Now what you need to do is replace it with an empowering alternative.
And she says,
that's the crucial thing.
Who or how would you be without that thought?
Yeah.
So then that puts you into the position of somebody that
behaviour.
hasn't got that anymore.
Who would you be without the thought that you're not good enough?
Yeah.
What would you do if you without the thought you were not good enough? What would you do? I'd take action. I'd put my hand up. I would ask a question. I'd speak first.
Yeah.
Right. There's the empowering, or that's the empowering action. And the belief that goes with that is I am good enough. And in fact, there's a really great NLP question that asks, what is it you're pretending not to know about this? Which is a very, very powerful question. When you ask that question, what is it you're pretending not to know that you're good enough?
Yeah.
Or to know something, to know that you can do this.
Yeah.
What is it you're pretending not to know that you can do this, that I am already good enough, that I'm already smart, that I'm already loved, that I'm already bright, that I'm already ready. And actually, when somebody has that realization, you can literally see the physiological change in them in the moment. It's really powerful. It's disturbing the belief, agitating it, thinking about what would the empowering alternative be? What would I need to believe? What would be a better belief? You're playing with the idea because, let's face it, as we said earlier, person A does it, person B doesn't. Person A who's doing the behaviour has simply a different belief.
They're running a different story, aren't they? Yeah.
Take something like confrontation, very, very simple example. Person A has no problem with confrontation, person B avoids it. What's the difference? Person A is not seeing it as confrontation, or if they are, they're seeing it as, this is something we need to sort out. And if we sort it out, we'll have a better relationship.
Yeah.
In fact, if we don't sort it out, we'll have a worse relationship. And I love you as a friend. I want to keep you as a strong colleague. I don't want this to manifest into something uglier. So I'm going to sort it out now.
Yeah.
Person B, who's not doing it, has a belief, oh no, if I bring this up, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
If I bring this up, they're not going to like me. They're not going to love me. They're going to reject me. I'm going to be held in poor favour.
So a different meaning associated with
different belief,
with the
different
same
meaning,
thing.
different belief, same thing, right? So that's what I'm saying, is remembering when you come up with the empowering alternative, it's not hocus pocus.
Yeah.
What you're believing at the moment is hocus, but you're believing in something that's limiting, but making it true for yourself, and it's not even true.
Yeah, so why would you do that?
Why not entertain the idea of something that is also for you at the moment, you've got a little bit of doubt about this empowering alternative, but actually, do you know there's a real risk here, it can make you feel great.
Yeah.
So,
and, the first part of the process that you talked about is about letting go. The moving forward one is grabbing hold, and there is something about acting yourself into a new way of thinking. You've just got to try it on, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've just got to go for it. You just got to lean into these things, and that accelerates and strengthens.
Yeah, there's such a powerful concept that Lisa you mentioned. Act your way into a new way of thinking, rather than think your way into a new way of acting.
Yeah.
If you spend all your time thinking, I need to think my way into a new way of acting, you've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, you're not really committed.
So and I have to say, the only real antidote to all of this is action.
Yeah.
This is all about getting yourself to take action. And if you've disrupted that usual pathway of thinking, and you have an empowering alternative and thought that you've had, in that moment, there's a little bit of disruption and there's an alternative now.
Yeah.
Your brain's going, okay, I've got this new route. So you go down a new pathway, you get a success from it, you do it again the next day, you do it another next day, you reward yourself, brain's feeling good, you do it again. And now we're building a new road.
Yeah.
We're building a new motorway, a new freeway. And pretty soon, your brain will go down the path of least resistance and the most attractive. And if you're getting more pleasure from that new behavior because it's getting you a better outcome and you're getting a bigger dopamine hit from it,
Yeah.
right? You will start to go down that pathway. And suddenly now, not suddenly, but gradually, we have a new belief installed, new operating software, new outcomes.
And how
happier life, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should you do one at a time, or can you handle changing multiple things at a time?
Well, that's an interesting question in that I would be as specific as possible about one thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that if you knock down one thing, it's like a domino.
Yeah.
It has a domino effect. Our great friend Jim still uses the metaphor about climbing taller trees and diving off he talks about diving boards. Now, if you climb a taller tree, you can dive off a higher diving board. And if you can climb a higher diving board, guess what? You put your hand up more in meetings for things you'd never have done before because your paradigm of self has changed.
I can do hard things.
I'm a top boarder.
Yeah, I can do hard things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can do hard things and I can survive and And I think that is the most powerful thing about beliefs is that your belief about yourself and your efficacy, that the beliefs you hold about yourself as a whole allow you to take action in lots of new areas because you survived in this new area.
And like with the table metaphor, we were trying to shake the foundations of the unhelpful belief. You want to build all of the references to support and give evidence the fact that you can do hard things, or you can speak up in meetings, or you are good enough.
So that paradigm shift about yourself and your self-image changes everything.
Yeah.
Because you've got this sort of top boarder mentality and you do the thing that top boarders do.
Yeah.
That is the most significant thing. By changing one thing, you change your view of what else could I do.
Yeah.
And then suddenly lots of things then start to become possible.
Yeah.
But what's the key? Change the small thing to start with.
Yeah.
And you've got to make this habitual change really, really easy. And if anyone wants to know, if anybody really wants to know how to change a habit, go to the habit coach.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Colin, our friend
process,
Colin. Yeah. Because
coaching support.
Do that for a month in conjunction with what I'm talking about here, and you'll really, really understand about the science of habit change. So we'll put that in the notes again because it's brilliant at that, and that really, really works. So go for it. So that's pretty much.
Yeah,
Hey,
a fantastic conversation.
That is it.
I think, we've explored where beliefs come from in the first place and some of the neuroscience and psychology behind it, and given a very practical process for you to go and apply to any behaviours and beliefs that you wish to change for yourselves. So thank you, Martin, for
my greatest wish in the work that I do is that people, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it is true. We want people, you and I both share the same passion. We truly, truly want people to live to their full potential, whatever that is, and not live a life that is less in love, happiness, prosperity, experiencing the world. It fills me with great sadness when I see people living a life less than they could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my biggest single wish for anybody doing this is if you can get to the heart of recognizing that those old belief systems, they were put there with no ill intention. No. Whatever your mother, father, teacher, boss has said to you in the past, there was good reason behind it. They were only doing what they thought was the right thing at the time. The last thing you want to be doing is believing that for the rest of your life and living out that past experience. This is an opportunity to break free from that and work on it a bit further. Then, of course, if people want to find out more about this, then find out more about the Power Up program, where we will really help you delve into this in more detail. Yeah,
and we'll put links to that, to any of the books and other podcasts that we've referenced. And, of course, the Power Tool, which will outline the process that we went through in today's podcast. Yeah. So, thank you once again for listening. And feel free to share the tool, the resources, and this podcast with your family and friends. And then next week... episode, which is with a very good friend of ours, David Bliss. What are we going to be talking about with David?
We're going to be talking about the art of storytelling. David's a past actor, presenter, and coaches, executives, and professional people, TED Talks on, how to use the power of storytelling.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. Superb.
Okay, well, thank you.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.